Here's the story. It's called The Post-Structuralist.
Of course it is.
On the 7th Sunday night in a row, I find myself sitting for no particular reason in the downtown coffee shop where my sister used to hold court before she died at the age of 18, back when she was headed toward graduation as her class's valedictorian, and on to Harvard and all those other places that my parents, working class people in wrinkled t-shirts advertising long-defunct 70s folk rock bands, prized above all else. It's only Sundays I sit in this place. I never tell my parents I'm going to where she used to spend her time. Since this is the summer she'd have been coming home as an Ivy League graduate to visit before starting up her Ivy League job, I know that they'd only grow quiet and blacken out if they knew. The other nights of the week I go and hang out in smoke clouds at all the towny bars with all the other towny dropouts, where we all try to feel up girls and sometimes just play pool and talk about last night's episode of The Simpsons, and how funny it is that all Homer ever wants are donuts, and how he'll do anything to get them, and how that reminds so-and-so of this time he drove all the way down to Emerson just to buy some weed off this guy he kinda sorta knew back in high school. Sitting there in that coffee shop by myself isn't so bad, really. I can have a cup of coffee and bring one of her old books with me to maybe read. But mostly I just play with the ring on my finger and watch all the young people flutter by. Like the guy 2 Sundays ago who went to the back of the place with some girl he was trying to impress, to where they keep a slim pile of books for people to read while they light up with caffeine. And all he kept saying was, I've read this, 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 over and over again, just like that. Something for my friends and I to laugh about when we're feeling particularly drunk. Well, tonight I know I'm really in for it when there's a racket by the door. When I look up, I have to tell you I'm more amused than ever because this guy's stomach is huge and his hair is bushy and red, and he must be about 21 with lines on his face that make him into a 40-year-old. But more than this, I'm surprised to see him come into the place with not one, but 2 girls who look not much older than high school seniors, though I know they must be juniors or close to it at the local university. His windbreaker is the color of piss, and he takes it off and tries to throw it over the wire-back chair. When it misses and hits the floor, one of his girls giggles and picks it up. The shadows in this place make her look like she has a mustache. She's the fussy one, I can tell. The one whose dorm room always needs to be in order. 3 separate hampers for her different categories of dirty clothes, the sort my sister would have been. The 3 of them sit down. I'm pretending to read On the Road, a book my sister used to be crazy about. The table feels cold under my hand. I read the same sentence a million times. I play with that ring on my finger. It's the silver one my sister gave me 3 weeks before she died. There's a maple leaf on it because she'd always thought I loved Canada, though I was never sure why, as I was certain I never displayed any strong feelings on the subject whatsoever. Maybe it was because for a brief time I discussed going to college far away, out of the country, when we all knew she was headed somewhere, and when I thought that maybe I'd like to do something like that too. So she gave me the ring, something of a joke maybe, like Canada's kind of far away, but not that far really when you think about it. Anyway, sometimes playing with this ring is the only thing that can calm me down. But these new people, these new ones, they're too fucking loud to ignore, so I don't bother trying and instead just listen. This red man starts telling these girls stories, using that voice that people who want to be impressive use when they think they're being impressive. The fussy girl giggles and nods and gazes into his brilliant eyes and beer-heavy stomach, and I know right away this will be a good one to tell the guys tomorrow. So I'm writing a paper right now, he says, that I'll probably expand into a book one day. It's called The American Dread, 20th Century Consumption of Mass Tragedy. It's an examination of the disparate literatures that emerge in the wake of a national horror. But that's not even the whole thing either. Because these literatures are controlled by whom? By the artists themselves? No. By the culture, by the media. You see what I mean, of course. And he just goes on and on like this, and it's all I can do to stop myself from laughing or popping his head off or something. These literatures, he says, filter the tragedy through the discourse of the power elite. These works have no author but society itself. And not even the true society, rather manufactured society. I told Professor Hawks about it, and he said I could be the next Michel Foucault. So yeah, I'm doing that. But I'm also an actor, naturally. I act in independent art films and some plays, Ibsen plays mostly. The fussy girl giggles. That's really cool, the second girl says, in a voice that manages to be both youthful and nicotine-stained. I act too. Yeah? In what? Well, it was mostly stuff I did in high school. Plays and things, you know. I was a witch in Macbeth, and Mrs. Thénardier in Les Miserables. Was that around here? Yeah, Westbrook. Do you know it? He tells them he doesn't know it, but I do. Yes, I know Westbrook High School. And I take a good look at this girl's face, And I see it all at once, like a wave of light pouring into a darkened room as its door is pulled open. I see it in the skull-shaped earrings she wears. I see it in the vacancy of her eyes and how they're underlined still by the black bars that have been there since she first fell in with that bad crowd freshman year of high school. I see it in the way her fingernails are yellowed after almost a decade of smoking cigarettes and smoking other things too, like whatever she gave my sister the night she died. The night my sister must have thought, well, why the hell not? Haven't I earned a little fun? And like that, this memory comes to me, so unexpected and vivid, like somebody's opened up a photo album and is showing it to me, and taking hold of my hand and pulling my fingers across all the faces frozen in time. It's my sister, leaning against the door frame of my bedroom, her hair put into a ponytail. She must have been about 18 at the time, though in my memory she looks closer to 50. I'm lying on my bed, on my side, trying to focus on my biology homework about parasitic organisms, and she's just standing there and watching me in the way an old woman might watch her newborn grandson. And she doesn't say a word to me. She just leans there and I pretend not to notice her. And she has her hand closed loosely around something small, something that glints like metal from the spaces left between her fingers. When I look across the way and see my sister's old friend sitting in this coffee shop and see her laugh, my memory breaks apart like an icicle shattering on a brick patio. I never expected to see this girl again. And all of a sudden, I want to bang my fists onto the table and I want to beat my fists against the metal. I can't pretend to read my book anymore. And some part of me wants to kiss the ring on my finger and pretend it's the cheek of somebody's soft face and pretend it's coming alive in front of me just like that. Like it'll bring some warmth back into me. As though somebody were breathing gently on my face, staring at me and wondering whether they really want to wake me up from my night's sleep or just want to let me lie there a little longer. And this guy keeps talking, and here's what he says. You read a book or you see a movie that's about, let's say, just as an intellectual exercise, 9/11, and you're struck by this emotion that doesn't seem to come from anywhere specific, anywhere true. That's what I'm going to write about. Such death doesn't affect the author. It's society's reaction to the death that affects the author. That's what informs all our individual reactions. Even smaller, personal tragedies work this way. Everyone who has ever written in a diary after the death of a friend or a loved one has written about it in exactly the same way. It's not the individual's way, it's society's way. No individual can really feel anything. For a moment there, I'm pretty sure I understand why I've been coming here so often, what I've been waiting for. And even though I don't really know the half of it, I feel so light and clear-headed right then that I stand up and head toward their table, my fists tight and squeezing nothing. Do you see what I mean, he says. I do, she says. I really do, the bitch says. The fussy girl giggles. Yes, this will be a good one to tell the guys tomorrow. Thank you.